Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How's things, Pablo? Scott, good to see you. How you doing, brother? How you been? Scott, I've got to reply back to your messages, your direct messages. Still haven't forgotten. I'll do it after the live. Apologies about that, Scott. But how you been? How's things? Kerry, what's up, Miles? What's up, man? How you doing? Kerry, how you been? Hello, Miles. Hope you're well. I'm doing great. T, how you been? How you doing today? I'm doing great, Scott. How you been? Even Miles and family. Ian, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles. How was your weekend? It was good. How's your weekend, Artistic? How's things? No problem, man. I'm good. You? I'm doing great, Scott. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Callie, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Tony, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Pure, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening. How you been? Okay, while everyone tunes in one by one, let's do a breakdown of what we're going to go through on tonight's live, because a lot of things actually have been happening around the world in terms of regulations and in terms of cryptocurrency regulations. A lot of Republicans are coming in favor of cryptocurrencies. In fact, some Democrats are also coming in favor of cryptocurrencies inside the United States. We have a lot of world events happening, situations as well. A lot of good news for XRP today, to be fairly honest as well. A lot of filings for more ETFs to be happening on the XRP space. Dennis, how you doing? Good to see you as well. How you been? Firstly, I like, then I watch. Let's go, Robin. Thanks so much for liking the live and then watching. Are you so strong on XRP, XLM, XDC, ACH, and HBOT? Yes, forever. Lena, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles, the CMF. Orphan, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Any word on TIA or core? I still haven't looked into it. I'll look into it after the live and get back to you. Hey, Miles, what do you know about XDC's release? 841 million tokens was supposed to be the 5th of February, and what's your thoughts on this release? On the release of the tokens, token release is always a very common thing inside the crypto space. If you're asking would it impact the price, it really shouldn't. Even if it does, it'll be a very short-term impact on the price, but long-term wise, it's still good to go, is what I would say. I'm very interested in this too. Let's go, Scott. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Free Feather, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? So, let's do a breakdown of what we're going to talk about tonight's live. Let's do the intro of tonight's live as well by the time I was tuned in for the first part. Welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles, and I'm the host of this live Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. On this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. Now, we also do essentially Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, and if you're regular, let's go CMF. I just want to take a second to say thank you so much to everyone that's liking this live on X, because I'm getting notifications from X quite a lot now. Thanks so much to everyone essentially that's liking this live on X. Thanks so much to everyone that's put a comment outside the live on X, hashtag the XRP Army. And essentially, also thanks so much to everyone that's essentially liking each other's posts on X as well. And for everyone watching on YouTube right now who's liked the live also. So in general, thanks so much to everyone for the likes, retweets, and liking each other's comments. Now, let's do a breakdown of what we're going to be talking about tonight's live. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the SEC, essentially. The first news we are going to be covering, essentially, is the SEC. But I'll do a breakdown of what we're going to be going through on tonight's live. So we're going to talk about the SEC in terms of the ETF applications and acknowledging, essentially, ETF applications for the first time. Then we're going to be talking about the Korean exchange, because Korea is deciding to fast-track their ETF applicants as well for crypto projects, just like the United States is right now. Then we're going to be talking about the Japanese market space, essentially also fast-tracking their crypto ETF policies. And then we're going to be talking about the Hong Kong, essentially, market system as well, because they're also trying to fast-track a few things as well, but more patiently. Then we're going to be talking about the Canadian market space, essentially a lot of things have been happening in terms of the world basis. Then we're going to be talking about North Carolina on tonight's live as well, another state that's decided to essentially join the crypto space in the United States. We're also going to be talking about MetaPlanet on tonight's live. MetaPlanet is a Japanese company that follows the exact same footsteps MicroStrategy has left behind, which is adding Bitcoin to your stockpiles. Then we're also going to be talking about on tonight's live regarding the matters of another company that's decided to follow essentially MicroStrategy's footsteps, but this time around it's the first Indian company in the world to be following essentially MicroStrategy's footsteps and adding Bitcoin to their portfolio. Then we're also going to be talking about on tonight's live regarding the SEC in terms of, if you're wondering why is it taking so long for the SEC to have a new chairman, especially a pro-crypto chairman, but even though the acting chairman right now, Mark, is still a very impressive chairman as an acting chairman who's also pro-crypto, but we're going to go through, regarding the delay issue that's happening for the new SEC chairman to come in. Then we're also going to be talking about Rep. Waters essentially proposing a stablecoin rule in terms of federal oversights. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the European payments giant company, Klarna, which a lot of people most likely have heard of. It's a payment company that you can pay for items using 3 pay systems. That company has decided to enter the crypto space and integrate particular crypto assets. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding 2 more US regulatory dominoes may have fallen for crypto. The OCC and the CFPB might be shut down by Trump because they tried to stifle the crypto space. And they were both US essentially government departments. It's another brilliant good news for the crypto space. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding Charles, the founder of Cardano, who's just revealed some interesting information from USAID, which is the exact same department Donald Trump and Elon Musk's new Doge Department of Government Efficiency, is trying to look into and shut down completely, because USAID has apparently been financing Bitcoin in a way. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding Ripple in terms of their new partnerships with Portugal in terms of payments to Brazil. So, mixture of news essentially to go through on tonight's live, but the first news we are going to be covering is regarding the SEC in terms of their ETF applicants actually being looked into for the first time pretty much since Gary Gensler has left, because the SEC hasn't acknowledged any sort of ETF applications whatsoever until now, which also brings up the other topic of regarding the cases that's still pending with the SEC, because if we're going to have ETF applications approved, then the cases need to go away as well. But here's the thing. Before we go through the first SEC news, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news of tonight's live. Let's see where we were inside the comment section, and then we go straight into the first news. We were at here. Good evening, Free and Feather. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Morning, Miles of CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Comatose. Morning, Miles of CMF. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Comatose. Mickey, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Professor Miles and the CMF family. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles. How are you doing today? I'm doing great, Yama. Good to see you. How you doing? John. Hi, Miles. Good to see you as well. John, how you doing? Even Miles of CMF, Manny, good to see you. How you doing? Hello to my CMF on YouTube. I hope that you all have a good day all night. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles of CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? When is Paul Atkins taking the SEC chair? Well, we're going to talk about it on tonight's live, and the reasonings of why essentially Paul Atkins still has not taken the SEC chair is what we're going to go essentially talk about on tonight's live. So a little bit towards the middle of the live, you'll understand the reasonings of why Paul Atkins still hasn't taken the chair, because it's due to a lot of things need to happen before he takes the chair, in other words. Simplest way to put it. Brother Miles, do you think we can hit double digits on XRP soon? I've been holding it for about 5 years. Thank you. Abil, good to see you. How you doing? Can we hit XRP on 2 digits? Yes, it's very possible, extremely possible. But a few things need to happen for that to be essentially a reality. 1, this case needs to be dismissed or settled. 2, regulations need to be in place due to their essentially client base. And 3 is pretty much the adoption rate. It's just going to be happening rapidly because we've been preparing for this for such a long time. In terms of corporations, I've been preparing this for such a long time. So can XRP hit double digits can XRP hit double digits very soon? It's very, very highly possible, extremely possible. Good day, Miles. Mike, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hey, Miles, did you manage to find out a date when Paul Atkins is due to take over? Yes, in a way. We'll get to that in the mid show, essentially. Good evening, Miles and family. Bull XRP, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Scott, let's go. Happy Pisces, good to see you as well. How you doing? We really need this case to be over quick so we can see the price movement. Yes, I completely agree. Evening, Miles and CMF, good to see you as well. Pierce, how you doing? How you been? Is Ripple and Swift now in a partnership? Is Ripple and Swift now in a partnership? Yes and no, technically. Under the Bank of International Settlements, yes, but together, no. Many thanks for your daily preparations for our program, Scott, no problem. But Harris, regarding being upon it indirectly, yes, directly, no. Indirectly, they're technically both for the Bank of International Settlements, is what I would say. Hello, Scott. Okay, so let's go through the first news on tonight's live, which is regarding the SEC and regarding the ETF applications that's been happening quite a bit now. We've gotten essentially XRP ETF applications, more applications have happened for XRP today. We've had Solana ETF applications, HBAR ETF applications, Doge ETF applications, Litecoin ETF applications as well. So the SEC for the first time has acknowledged all of these ETF applications now. Here it is. The SEC likely to acknowledge XRP Doge ETF filings this week, experts are weighing in. Now, the experts that are weighing in are essentially James, who's a Bloomberg ETF analyst, essentially specialist when it comes to ETFs. The US Securities Exchange Commission could acknowledge the spot exchange traded funds ETF, in other words, filings for XRP and Dogecoin as soon as this week, apparently according to James. The SEC's latest major move was the acknowledgement of the amendment of Solana, essentially ETF applications by Grayscale. The agency ticked essentially on this milestone, and now Bloomberg ETF analyst James essentially says the amendment filings for the XRP and Dogecoin ETFs could be next. James and his colleagues, Eric, who is also essentially a Bloomberg ETF specialist in terms of an analyst, and Eric and James are very accurate on their timelines. They were the first ones to essentially predict the exact timeline where we're going to get essentially a Bitcoin ETF happening or an Ethereum ETF happening and so on. So both of these colleagues now have the odds of spot, essentially Litecoin and Solana ETF approvals at 90% and 70% essentially. And the SEC has acknowledged the Form 19B4 for both cryptocurrencies, and the countdown to the final deadline is October 2nd and October 25th for Litecoin and Sol. Now, but that's not all. With anticipation across essentially the crypto markets high in post-Gary Gensler era, the two ETF experts essentially also putting odds of XRP and Doge ETFs getting approved 65% to 70%. This is Eric and James. Both of them are very accurate on their timelines. They're both coming out to say 65 to 70% chance of XRP ETF applications happening in terms of XRP and Doge. Now, Eric has essentially noted that applications for spot ETFs on Ripple's cryptocurrency and the top meme coin could get the SEC acknowledgement nod this week. We could pretty much have some sort of a news from the SEC this week regarding XRP ETF. Now, the SIBO, essentially BZX, filed an S1 forms of XRP ETFs for the Carry Capital, Wisdom Tree, 21 shares, and Bitwise. Meanwhile, there are also S1 filings for Dogecoin ETFs by Grayscale and Bitwise, and the analysts expect forms of 19B4 to get a nod on February 13th, February 14th in order for that to be happening. Now, for a final approval, the analysts see the SEC as well as essentially Commissioner Hester Pierce, Crypto Task Force will provide a path to much needed regulatory clarity by the end of 2025. One of this is just untangling of the questions of security versus commodity. Now, what does essentially James and Eric mean by by making the comment of security versus commodity? In other words, who's going to be in charge of the crypto space? Is it going to be the CFTC, which is commodities, or is it going to be the SEC, which is securities? So who's going to be in charge of running the show? By the looks of it, Donald Trump has put more power in the hands of the CFTC, which would make cryptocurrencies not securities and instead commodities. Now, does that make all cryptocurrency commodities? No, some could be considered securities, but the ones that are currently in lawsuits are not securities. Like XRP is not a security, it's been rectified before, and so on and so on. But what I'm interested in is essentially about James and Eric, who are respectfully, two of the most intelligent people in Bloomberg essentially analyst group. And they have predicted Bitcoin ETFs in January happening when everybody else said, Bitcoin ETFs will never happen. They were the ones that said, yes, they're going to be happening according to their sources, and it happened in January. And they were very correct on the timeline. They were also correct on the ETF application timeline for Ethereum. And now these two men are coming out from Bloomberg again, which is gospel for the entire Wall Street, and stating that XRP ETF applications could get some sort of a nod of an approval this week. They're saying it's a 65 to 75% chance. 65% chance for essentially XRP happening this week. Some sort of essentially nod gesture is going to be happening, which is incredible, honestly. Now, what does that tell you? Well, if we get an XRP ETF, that means the case needs to be over, because the SEC cannot give XRP a green light for the ETF and not drop the lawsuit. So the lawsuit needs to be dropped before the ETF comes out. But if the ETF comes out first, then the lawsuit is automatically going to be dropped. We know that's going to be happening anyways. But it's an indication of this lawsuit's timeline. The closer we get to a green light of an XRP ETF, the closer it is pretty much of this case getting dismissed. Because we can't have an SEC case and have an SEC approving XRP ETF, because it just doesn't make sense, especially not in the court scene. So that's basically a timeline, if you wanted to know, regarding XRP lawsuit getting dropped. According to Eric and James, is pretty much we're going to get some sort of a news this week of an XRP ETF. Some sort of a noise is going to be coming out of that matter. But I'm not the only one that's saying this, but I was the only one saying this beforehand. But Jeremy Hogan has also came out and said that if we're going to get an XRP ETF, then that means the XRP case needs to be over as well. So obviously I said this before, Jeremy Hogan, but Jeremy Hogan has came out with the exact same thing. Today, he tweeted out essentially stating that if we're going to get an XRP ETF, then that means the case needs to be done before it, which means the case is about to be done. Because that's the only way it's going to be happening. Now, moving on essentially from that to Korea, which again, that's amazing news. We're going to XRP, incredible news. Now, Korea is what we're going to talk about next. There's a lot of countries to talk about on tonight's live. We're going to talk about Korea, we're going to talk about Japan, we're going to talk about Hong Kong, we're going to talk about India. There's a lot of things happening around the world in terms of the cryptocurrency space. Portugal, Brazil, a lot of things happening. But before we go through the Korean news, before we go through all these essentially countries' news, different countries' news, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the Korean news. We're going to cryptocurrency space. Let's see where we were at inside the comment section. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. We're more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's see where we were inside the comment section, and then we go straight into the next news, which is regarding Korea. Funky Brother says, we really need this case to be essentially over quick so we can see the price movement. I agree 100%. Even the Miles and CMF, Pierce, good to see as well. How you doing? How you been? Is Ripple, oh, Swift, I already read that one. Okay, where was I? I was here actually. If Swift is a political tool for the United States, wouldn't it be convenient for the United States government not to adopt XRP? No. If Swift is a political tool, which it is for the United States, wouldn't it be convenient for the US government not to adopt XRP? No, because XRP can't be used as a political tool. You see, the only way Swift can be used as a political tool, not messaging standard technically, is because Swift is not decentralized. XRP ledger is decentralized, which means it can never be used as a political tool, unlike Swift can. So no. Regarding your question, wouldn't it be convenient? Wouldn't it be convenient for the US government not to adopt XRP? No, because XRP is decentralized, unlike Swift, which is very centralized, which is hence why it can become a political tool. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Ray, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What's up, brother Miles and CMF? XRP, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What's up, brother and CMF? Billo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? XRP news today? Yes, we went through one already. XRP ETF, yes. As apparently we're going to get some sort of a noise coming out regarding XRP ETFs regarding this week. It's a perspective coming out from Eric and James, which are very respected in that, especially in that space. Say what, Miles? Don't play with my emotions like this. Wow, what fantastic news. Let's go, Stormy. I think LTC, essentially, ETF will be approved third. I agree. Litecoin ETFs are also happening as well. We have applications for Litecoin ETFs to be happening as well. Maybe the XRP ETF might get declined or rejected, is what essentially Funky Brother is saying. It's a possibility, but a low possibility. It's a much more higher extreme possibility that the XRP ETF gets approved instead. Due to how much play Ripple's CEO especially has now with Trump, due to how Ripple's CEO has been invited to an open table with the CFTC, doubtful it's going to get rejected. Maybe for it, not to get rejected, but instead for it to be like edited and reapplied. Maybe something's missing from the filings rather than a full-on rejection. I think both will come at the same time. Dismissed case and stablecoin registration is a possibility. We're going to ETF, you mean? When do you think everything goes up? And end of February or end of March? March is when we should be seeing a lot of market movements, but mid-February, essentially, we should start seeing that movement slowly happening. But there is also that side of the, the tariff situation that's going on, which needs to happen. I've said this before. I agree with tariffs. I agree with Trump's movements regarding tariffs. So that needs to happen. But regarding tariffs, they do cause short-term volatility, max 48 hours or 24 hours inside the crypto space, only 36 hours, nothing beyond that. Do you think this week case end and ETF, it's a possibility that's coming up from essentially Eric and James. How will the ETF price be determined for an XRP ETF? Well, it depends on how much, essentially, what shares they're selling it at. Doing good, bro. Just very busy, more than before. Let's go below. Depends on the shares that essentially they're selling. Now, Korean exchange chief is coming out in terms of their ETF approvals. They need to fast track them. So just like the United States is aiming to become the capital currency, aiming to become a capital hub for cryptocurrencies, every other country wants to follow America's footsteps. So if America is going to be fast tracking their ETF applicants and acknowledging them, the SEC is right now acknowledging essentially ETF applicants. Korea wants to follow America's footsteps as well. They want to, essentially fast track ETFs. They want to catch up to the American market space. All of this is positive. The more countries follow Trump's footsteps into this digital world, to this cryptocurrency world, the better it is. The more money they bring to the table internationally. So Korea is pretty much trying to follow their footsteps. Korean exchange chief Jong-in-boo calls for the urgent crypto ETF approval. The chairman of Korea's essentially exchange, Jong-in-boo, has urged South Korea to list cryptocurrency ETFs soon, urging it to bring its financial markets up to date with global markets and standards. During his interview in Seoul, Jong essentially emphasized South Korea's ranks as the third global leader of real cryptocurrency essentially deals. Through cryptocurrency, people can build financial innovation to bring new benefits to the investment world. He explained, the US has both futures and spot ETFs listed and actively traded. We need to allow the cryptocurrency ETF trading without further delays inside of South Korea. The remarks by Jung comes as South Korea's stock market suffers from a loss of investor base, high corporate splits, and bad zombie companies. Having stressed the need for strengthening monitoring of the markets and the promotion of corporate value and improvements of weaker and essentially minority of shareholders and protections, as well as delistings of unsustainable firms, he has essentially argued that these innovatives would benefit the entire market space. He's basically trying to say the Korean stock exchange is not doing too well. There's no innovation in South Korea right now. And the innovation that we could bring to the table is essentially ETF for the blockchain space and also put South Korea on the map when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Jong believes that the cryptocurrency ETF introduction would expand South Korea's financial markets scope and let investors safely essentially enter digital assets. According to him, the nation must take this step to remain competitive internationally. They definitely should, because every country, by the looks of it, is trying to aim for that capital hub of cryptocurrencies. The more countries that aim for capital hub, the more money they bring to the table. The ongoing discussions between South Korean regulators about financial updates have made Jung worried about their strict rules for corporate essentially governance. He argues for less strict financial market rules to support better innovation and bring essentially a massive expansion in terms of cryptocurrencies. Based on his analysis, Jung believes South Korea pension funds should face fewer rules when buying essentially stocks, since present restrictions diminish future investment gains. He supports crypto ETFs as a part of efforts to take South Korea's financial sector into the modern times and follow global trends. Major global financial centers, especially the United States, have experienced rapid developments of cryptocurrency ETF investments. In 2021, the SEC cleared essentially Bitcoin's futures ETFs for market access and then allowed Bitcoin ETFs in January 2024, which essentially brought strong investments from institutional companies into the market space. Leading asset companies, including BlackRock, Fidelity, started providing crypto ETFs to help mainstream investors invest into digital assets. Other nations, including Canada, Switzerland, and Germany, now let investors obtain regulated exposure to digital assets through ETFs. Proof of South Korea's strong crypto traditions and their lack of essentially investment vehicles launches makes essentially observers wonder if the nation may miss on this major financial movement that's happening around the world. South Korea may adopt different essentially financial rules as global financial sectors develop, because Jong now promotes cryptocurrency ETFs in South Korea. The discussion about adding digital assets to the financial system continues to grow in South Korea, but it hangs in a balance with regulators. South Korea faces a strict decision about financial innovation since Jong In-boo promotes using cryptocurrency ETFs to match global market practices. His goal represents an integral essentially plan to bring South Korea's financial sector into the future. When other progress in essentially finances, South Korea needs to act now to keep its position as an important financial sector. South Korea, just like essentially any other market space, wants to become a hub on cryptocurrencies. Their rules are slightly strict when it comes to essentially ETFs, but Jong-un essentially is trying to bring some essentially, in terms of their regulations, trying to loosen it up a bit. Just like the United States, when Gary Gensler left, within 24 hours, the SEC established a crypto task force and put Hester Pierce in charge to bring some pro-crypto innovation inside of America. Or we have the CFTC when Rustam Benham, chairman, left, and the CFTC decided to introduce two departments instead of an enforcement department for cryptocurrencies, but instead took their enforcement department and took it and made it into two departments, one for crypto innovation and one for essentially crypto fraud instead of crypto enforcement. So essentially South Korea wants to take a chapter of essentially out of the book of America's play when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Again, it's amazing. All of these countries aiming for that title of cryptocurrencies and trying to, do this is bringing more money to the table for the legitimate crypto projects that we're holding, like XRP, XLM, XDC, NEAR, essentially AVAX, TON, the list goes on, depending on what you're holding as a legitimate asset. Now, Japan's financial agencies are also trying to fast track, just like South Korea, they want to follow America's footsteps and fast track their ETF applications as well. Japan doesn't want to be left behind from this global market shift that's happening either. So Japan's financial agencies are mulling essentially crypto policy shifts and considering crypto ETFs as well. Japan's financial service agencies, essentially FSA, is in closed-door discussions right now regarding potential revisions to cryptocurrency regulations, including essentially classifying cryptos as securities, some, and mostly not all. This move essentially could pave the way for spot crypto ETFs in Japan to be happening. The agency is expected to announce a policy direction by June, forwarded by seeking opinions from financial system councils in the fall. Now, legal amendments could be submitted essentially as well in 2026. Now, here's a breakdown of the potential changes in Japan's essential system. Classification as securities. The FSA in Japan is considering classifying cryptocurrencies as financial products, potentially applying existing security laws or introducing new laws. This could lead to stricter regulations for retail investors, but opens up the door for institutional investors. Tax reforms. The FSA is proposing to slash crypto taxes from 55% in Japan to 20% only, and treating crypto like traditional securities. Governments and parliament approval are needed before this becomes law. Crypto exchange apps. The FSA has requested Apple and Google to remove non-compliant crypto exchanges apps from their app stores to enhance compliance for the time being. Bitcoin ETF. The agency may lift the ban on Bitcoin ETFs. In October 2024, it happened. Now, a domestic essentially study group recommended prioritizing Bitcoin and Ethereum and advancing regulatory frameworks for crypto ETFs and more ETFs to be happening inside the Japanese market space. If these changes are approved, Japan could become a crypto-friendly destination, attracting more investors and more business to their pie, which is incredible. Again, Japan is just trying to follow America's footsteps. The plan that Trump has laid out, signing an executive order for the United States to become the capital of cryptocurrencies, establishing essentially a pro-SEC, a pro-CFTC, a pro-FDIC, and getting rid of apparently two of their establishments, which is the OCC and the CFPB. They're getting rid of both of those essential departments in the United States because they were both very anti-crypto, and they can't restore them back to normal anymore. So just think about getting rid of them. Anything that's against crypto, Trump is trying to remove from the United States and make it more pro-crypto, which makes the rest of the world look at Trump's movements and go, well, if Trump's really aiming for this pro-crypto, essentially America, then we don't want to be left behind. This is the biggest market space in the world. They're going pro-crypto automatically. We want to follow their footsteps. And it's showing. We're seeing signs of this, essentially South Korea following, America's footsteps, saying we want to fast track all of our ETF applicants. Japan is thinking about fast tracking their ETF applications and getting more involved inside the crypto space. And then we have Hong Kong to go through as well, which are also trying to fast track some of their applicants, and also patiently move the rest. But before we go for the Hong Kong news and then the Indian news, also India's trying to fast track a few things to catch up to the American market space. Let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the Hong Kong news next regarding the crypto space. And as I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the Hong Kong news. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. Do you think this week case and ETF? And apparently it's something that's coming from James and Eric. They're stating that we can get some sort of a nod of approval regarding XRP ETF. So the SEC has acknowledged the XRP. They've acknowledged the XRP ETF filings. They've acknowledged the Dogecoin, essentially ETF filings. They've acknowledged the Solana and the Litecoin ETF applications, which is something that's never happened in the past from the SEC due to Gary Gensler being in charge, and obviously now that he's left, we have a pro essentially acting chairman, Mark, regarding the SEC, and Hester Pierce being in charge of the crypto task force. But apparently the SEC has acknowledged the ETF applications, and then Eric and James are stating there's a 65% chance essentially for an XRP ETF approval this week. They're giving some sort of a nod. They're saying it's going to be happening. A perspective coming from Eric and James that are both essentially Bloomberg ETF experts in terms of analysts. And they have been quite correct on the movements on the Bitcoin ETF, on the timeline, and the Ethereum ETF. When everybody else was saying, to Eric and James, Bitcoin ETFs will never happen, Eric and James came out and said, well, according to our sources, it's going to be happening in January on the 10th or 11th. And everybody else said, you're crazy, it's never going to happen. And it did happen regarding Bitcoin ETFs. And then Eric and James again came out and said, Ethereum ETFs are going to be happening, at this particular date. And people again said, Eric and James, you're crazy. Ethereum ETFs won't be happening. Even Michael Saylor, from MicroStrategy, which is now known as Strategy, said Eric and James are pretty much crazy. Ethereum ETFs will never happen, is what even Michael Saylor said. And it turns out Eric and James once again were correct. We did have Ethereum ETFs exactly when they said. And now Eric and James are coming out from Bloomberg again, which is gospel for the entire Wall Street or the entire market space of the world. And they're coming out and saying there's a 65% chance we're going to get an XRP ETF happening this week. Apparently a nod of an approval is going to be happening this week. Just their perspective, but they said only 65% chance. So it does leave room for error. But according to them, it's a 65% chance. Now, let's go inside the comment section. Let's see what's going on more before we go to the Hong Kong news. So that's regarding the XRP ETFs. But if an XRP ETF does happen, then the case needs to be dismissed and settled as well. So does that mean we're going to get a case dismissal or settlement happening this week as well, this month in general? Which should be happening, to be fairly honest. Doing good, bro. Just very busy, more than before. Let's go below. I just read that Trump's 2025 tax plan include a clause for 65 and under don't have to file taxes if they make 165K or less. This man is awesome. Let's go. As I said before as well, thank God Trump won is what I've always said. Let's go. Stormy, thank you for that as well, for the update. Miles, with all of these XRP ETFs and most of the CBDC using XRP, will that not remove a ton of XRP from the market and therefore crank up the price? Yes, Mickey, that's exactly what's going to be happening. The more we go into essentially regulations, the more adoption that's going to be happening in terms of the financial projects like XRP, XLM, XDC, and so on. So the more we go into regulations, the more adoption that's going to be happening. And then these crypto assets will be used as a medium of payments for international and domestic essentially purposes, which the price will be cranked up. Facts. Evening, Miles and CMF. Peg, good to see you as well. How you doing, Peg? How you been? So, Hong Kong is what we talk about next. Unless I missed that, but I was surprised not to see any crypto advertisements yesterday at the Super Bowl. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the Super Bowl. But apparently Elon Musk is going to do some adverts. I didn't watch it though, but I'll see bits of it after the live. Now, Hong Kong. Hong Kong's patient approach to regulating crypto essentially will pay off. It's a perspective coming from Lee Kong Donkin Chi. Now, just like essentially South Korea, just like Japan, Hong Kong wants to be obviously inside this market space. They want to bring some innovation to Hong Kong, bring some money to the table when it comes to Hong Kong. By the way, China banning cryptocurrencies a long time ago and apparently not being involved inside the cryptocurrency market space. China uses Hong Kong as their playground when it comes to this whole crypto space, this digital space. Now, obviously, they're not following a lot of money into the Hong Kong market space in terms of blockchain and so on, but they're following just about the right amount of money. Just like, the United Kingdom or essentially England uses the city of London as their money playground. because the City of London is a province that's outside the UK. It was also outside the EU and still is, but so is the UK in general. But now, Hong Kong. Devising clear rules for the industry is important, is what Hong Kong said, but it can also help to wait for others to move first. Now, this is a perspective coming from Hong Kong. They're waiting for others to move first, then Hong Kong will take their footsteps. Because Hong Kong doesn't want to take the wrong footsteps, they want to take the right ones. Now, who are they waiting for to make the first steps? The US. Crypto regulations are a competitive business in Asia, with places such as Hong Kong and Singapore vying to become Asia's crypto hubs and capture all their businesses associated with the status. The challenge through essentially though lies in crafting a rule book that balances investor protections with a welcomeness to businesses and new capital. And here Hong Kong has an advantage over places like Japan or Korea, since its common law framework for traditional finance has made its economy one of the most open and free in the world. A recent essential report from the Canadian think tank essentially deemed Hong Kong the freest economy in the world, with Singapore just behind it in second place. With crypto, however, Hong Kong has moved relatively slow, especially compared to Singapore. But Duncan Chi, a member of the Hong Kong Legislative Council and a chair of its Technology and Innovation Committee, which oversees Hong Kong's technology parks and research facilities, says the territory essentially initial caution with respect to regulating crypto comes with advantages. With crypto, however, Hong Kong has moved relatively slow, especially compared to Singapore. But Duncan Chi, a member of their essentially establishment, said being a late mover is a good thing sometimes because you have a clear picture. Essentially what they mean in the simplest way is seeing how other countries take their footsteps will give Hong Kong a better idea of what to do and what not to do inside the blockchain space. Chi said in a recent interview with CoinDesk, for example, he pointed out to how the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the MAS, the city-state main financial regulator, has moved quickly to pass rules for crypto. MSA initially regulated crypto under its Payment Service Act, treating crypto inaccurately as a payment tool rather than an asset class. Japan did the same thing earlier on, forcing later revisions in 2024 as DeFi and tokenizations eventually essentially gained traction. While Hong Kong stated late, the good thing is that we're clearer in terms of patterns and on the paths we're taking of how these products were being used, said Chi, who is also one of the most prominent voices for crypto in Hong Kong, along with fellow Ling Chi member Johnny Ning. Now, Chi further essentially pointed out how the original Bitcoin white paper labeled the asset class as an electronic cash, while the market reality is it becoming more of a commodity than electric cash. Commodities and Futures Trading Commissions as another example of how crypto behavior around the world in terms of when it comes to crypto has evolved and needed regulations to adapt. One of the key issues Chi said he'd like to work on essentially in the Ling Code is building a clear classification for different types of digital assets, such as cryptocurrencies versus stablecoins, while also working with global regulators to ensure alignments among them. We need clear essential definitions of what cryptocurrencies is, and some assets should be regulated like securities, while others should remain unregulated like meme coins. Hong Kong has stated that they don't want to regulate meme coins, but instead want to focus on legitimate projects because that's where all the regulation is going to be. Now, whichever crypto asset gets regulated, there's a higher chance of it getting essentially funneled money, inflow of capital coming into it from institutions. If a project is regulated, that means institutions will go towards it to put money towards it. If a project is not regulated in a regulated place, if we get to that stage where everyone's regulating crypto assets, if meme coins are not regulated, then they won't get any money from institutions, more likely. To be fair, the only people that will still essentially go towards meme coins in a regulated market space would just be either retail sections or essentially hedge funds, because hedge funds like to, make a quick buck as well. But other than that, institutions will go towards much more regulated crypto assets. Hence why I always tell people we're going into a regulated market space. You might want to focus on legitimate crypto projects because crypto is about to go back to its roots, which were utility. According to Chi, meme coins should be treated as collectibles, much like essentially Pokemon cards or stamps, rather than these legitimate crypto assets. He said meme coins don't have functionality behind them. They don't use smart contracts, Chi said. They just like collectible items, so I see no reason to essentially regulate them like financial products. Given essentially how unique crypto is as an asset class, some jurisdictions such as Dubai and its virtual asset regulatory authority have created their own essentially separate regulator for virtual currencies and assets. Now, when asked whether essentially he felt Hong Kong should take the same path, Xi essentially recalled that his early years in essentially Linko, he initially supported the creation of a digital version of the Securities and Futures Commission, the SFC, the territory markets regulator called the SFC. Now, however, Hong Kong's government has instead chosen to keep crypto oversight under existing financial regulators, and the SFC has the dedicated digital asset team now within itself in Hong Kong. While the Hong Kong Monetary Authority oversees stablecoins, Xi said that for now he's satisfied with this arrangement, especially essentially as the SFC expands its headcount, even as the government calls for essentially elsewhere. Now, the government's intentions in Hong Kong is to keep everything under the SFC. They will have the team inside the SFC, and they're hiring even more people. We just approved that Ling Ko, Xi noted. Now, Xi also sees establishing an OTC trading and custodian regulations as the next major priorities for Ling Ko, while leaving essentially building rules around crypto derivatives and leverage trading to the SFC and crypto exchanges rather than passing new laws. Now, Xi also considers crypto regulations a top 5 priority, and the others mostly being around Hong Kong's economic recovery and public safety issues. But he acknowledges that not all of his fellow Long Key essentially members share his same urgency regarding crypto regulations, with some waiting to focus on building more investor protection mechanisms first in order to avoid another FTX or JPEX. Essentially, both of those failures left many in Hong Kong crippled afterwards. However, there's also so much legislative bandwidth available. Hong Kong's job market is weak, and the real estate sector is on essentially a very painful correction. Hong Kong is also caught between the US and mainland China in Donald Trump's next trade war, making an economic recovery challenging for the entire territory. Some Lencore members are very big supporters of virtual assets, but not all, of course, Xi said. They all have very different priorities. Now, it seems like a lot of essentially jurisdictions around the world might even be pressured to join the crypto space because of Donald Trump. Because this is what Hong Kong's perspective is. Hong Kong's perspective is, if we move too slow, then we'll get left behind. Hong Kong's perspective regarding the crypto space. If we move too slow, then we get left behind. If we move too fast, then we have to change a lot of regulations along the way. If we look at our essentially neighbors like Singapore, essentially Japan and South Korea, we can maybe have a better picture of what's about to happen next, and we can follow their footsteps in terms of regulation inside the Asian market space. But again, they said if we don't move fast enough, Trump might essentially put our country on tariffs, which will make things harder for Hong Kong, especially now Hong Kong has a massive real estate sector crisis bubble situation, and their market space is not doing too well. And they want to bring more money to the table, and the only way to bring more money to the table is about becoming pro-crypto. So it's interesting that, Hong Kong has added that, last perspective. In other words, you could say Trump is forcing countries to enter the crypto space. You could even say with using tariffs. Tariffs have multi-purposes. One of them being Trump has the final word on a lot of countries around the world. And basically, if Trump is going to put tariffs on countries, especially on countries that are struggling in terms of having an economic bubble crisis situation. For example, Germany has an automotive industry situation going on where they have a bubble crisis. France has a real estate issue, bubble crisis. China has a real estate issue, bubble crisis. Hong Kong has a real estate issue, bubble crisis. And all these countries are getting tariffed one by one pretty much by Trump. Or the EU in general is getting tariffs. So if they want to bring money to the table, it's either tax their own people even more, which is what France is thinking to do. France is thinking about taxing the crypto space even higher in terms of their own jurisdictions, or join an entire market space that has money inflowing into it, is what Hong Kong is thinking. Hong Kong is thinking, well, it seems like we're getting pressured to join the crypto space because we need money, and this is the next, wave of, capital coming in. So in a way, is Trump forcing every country using tariffs as well, subconsciously or indirectly, forcing countries to join the crypto space because they all need money. If they go on the tariffs, it's going to put pressure on their countries. And the only way to get more money to the table is either tax your own citizens more, which never works out, or, because that's a temporary situation, or enter an entire new market space, an untapped market space, to get investors coming into your country. Because that's what crypto does. You open your doors to the crypto space, investors will be pouring inside of your country. South Korea opened its doors to the crypto space. They had a huge amount of investors coming towards South Korea. Dubai opened its doors to the crypto space. A huge amount of investments went towards Dubai regarding the crypto space. So all these countries are struggling. If they go on the tariffs, they get pressured to enter a new market space, which has never been before it, just to get more capital coming into their jurisdictions. Or they can tax their own citizens even more, which is what some countries are just trying to do, but that's a temporary solution. So is Trump indirectly pressuring countries to even enter into the crypto space? Is the question essentially should be asked now, because that's what Hong Kong is mentioning. And this is Hong Kong's authority, not a regular person in Hong Kong or a news agent or a journalist. This is Hong Kong's essentially SFC authority coming out and saying, we're getting pressured to enter the crypto space because we need money. That's a new perspective. Now, North Carolina is what we're going to be talking about next. North Carolina joins the growing number of states essentially pursuing crypto investments. A lot of American states have been entering essentially and filing in essentially become their own crypto reserve funds. One particular state, Utah, has decided to essentially create their own crypto reserve stockpile, while the rest have decided to go for a Bitcoin ETF, essentially filing regarding the US states. But one particular state, Utah, decided to, no, we're not going to do a Bitcoin reserve, we're going to do a crypto stockpile reserve, which is a much more intelligent idea in my perspective. I've said this for the longest time, before we even had this topic of crypto reserves from American states or so on. Even before Trump presidency, I said this as well. Now, North Carolina, 19 essentially US states are weighing in their bills to put public money into digital assets. 19 United States right now coming out and saying, we want to do some sort of a crypto stockpile or a Bitcoin reserve for our states. Some of them similar to the federal pursuit of a reserve. Now, the latest state effort to set up the investment of public money into cryptocurrencies, a bill introduced today in North Carolina, is backed by the state speaker of House Destin Home. The high-profile North Carolina essentially putting as much as 10% of its general and highway funds into digital assets, limiting it to crypto with such a high market capitalization that only Bitcoin currently qualifies for. If it joins the 18 other states in America with bills that weigh in various ways of putting money into crypto, many of them focusing on investing portions of their state essential reimbursement funds, retirement funds, and so on, investing in digital assets like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general, not only has the potential to generate positive yields for our states in terms of investment funds, but also in terms of positioning North Carolina as a leader in technological adoption and innovation, the whole said in a statement today. 2 other states, Wisconsin and Michigan, have already essentially, in terms of their crypto, into their retirement portfolios for public employees, and at least 2 more states are in serious discussions to join others, making a total of 23 states that are devoting to joining the entire crypto space. 23 American states are pretty much trying to greenlight themselves to join the crypto space. The bulk of this trend took off when President Donald Trump openly embraced a similar idea at the federal level. He issued an executive order in terms of opening the days in the office that encouraged his administration to explore the idea of stockpiling crypto assets. There is also essentially the legislation in Congress to make that happen, but it hasn't yet moved forward. Among the states at this point, Utah is the leading effort of having cleared its state house and moved the state there. So 23 American states have came forward and said they want to create some sort of a crypto stockpile. Now, the 23 American states have all stated that they want to put 10% of their assets in crypto, which is incredible. They want to put pension funds in crypto in terms of donations for crypto and taxes for crypto and so on. The world is moving rapidly quick, believe it or not. Now, the next news we're going to be talking about tonight's live is going back to Japan, but not in terms of their ETF applications, but in terms of Metaplanet, which is the Japanese version of MicroStrategy, which is now known as Strategy, which is Michael Saylor's company, MSTR. So Metaplanet, just like MicroStrategy or Michael Saylor, essentially buys Bitcoin no matter what the price is and adds it to their stockpile. So here it is. Metaplanet to acquire 21,000 Bitcoins worth $2 billion. It came out today. And the stock for Metaplanet has rapidly increased in the Japanese market space. Metaplanet, Japan's top Bitcoin treasury company, will acquire 21,000 Bitcoins worth about $2 billion by the end of 2026, starting now. The Tokyo-based company announced its 2025 and 2026 Bitcoin plan today, doubling down on its status as a top corporate Bitcoin holder. Metaplanet plans to buy 10,000 Bitcoins by the end of 2025, and before expanding essentially its holdings to 21,000 in 2026. The CEO, Simon, said that this is a part of their goal, essentially, to build the world's largest Bitcoin reserve, as if strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy, doesn't exist. But Metaplanet is coming off a record year too, fueled by its switch to a Bitcoin-first strategy in April 2024. Like strategy, Metaplanet abandoned traditional performance benchmarks and now measures its success by the growth of its Bitcoin holdings. Metaplanet's 21,000 Bitcoin decision comes aimed at a surge in demand triggered by President Donald Trump's pro-crypto policies and the changes in the Japanese investment atmosphere. The price of Bitcoin itself hit a record high of $109,241 on January 20th as Trump took his office. Essentially, by December 31st, 2024, Metaplanet held 1,761 Bitcoins, which essentially brought an average price of 11.85 million essentially per coin in terms of Japanese yen. These holdings have already exploded in value, surpassing 27.7 billion yen, which is roughly about $206 million. The company's Bitcoin strategy saw incredible plans last year with 309.82% in terms of Bitcoin yield in Q4 alone, compared to 41.7% in Q3. Now, Metaplanet's market capitalization skyrocketed by 7,000% in 2004, especially in 2024, and its stock trading volume jumped by 430 times in yen terms. And Metaplanet's shareholders base grew by 500% last year, now surpassing essentially 50,000 investors. This puts the company among the top 15 publicly traded companies holding Bitcoin globally. Much of Metaplanet's stock performance is tied to Japan's embrace of Bitcoin. Shares of the company have surged over 4,000% in the past 12 months, making it the biggest gainer essentially of Japanese stock market and one of the top performing stocks globally. The new plan, known as 21 million plan, will be financed through the issuance of 21 million shares via moving strike warrants. Metaplanet is targeting essentially $870 million in capital, and according to the official announcements, where unique essentially about this strategy is way to protect its shareholders. Traditional equity raises in Japan often dilute shareholders' value by issuing shares at discounted prices, but Metaplanet's claim its warrants will be tied to 100% of the previous day's closing price, so they can make sure that their new shares aren't getting sold essentially below market value. Now, Dylan, Metaplanet's director of Bitcoin strategy, said the company's focus is maximizing Bitcoin per share without disrupting the market. We've designed this plan to protect our shareholders, he said. We have the flexibility to pause or resume share essentially issuance depending on Bitcoin's value conditions. Metaplanet's CEO, Jervon, admitted he drew inspiration from strategy essentially CEO Michael Saylor after hearing him on a podcast. Metaplanet was previously known as a Red Planet Japan and was a hotel developer until the COVID-19 pandemic happened, when they decided to become a Bitcoin company instead. And by pouring 100% of its capitals from its rights issuance and debt into Bitcoin, the company generated massive shareholder returns. Investors like Capital Group, also a major backer of strategy, jumped on board, but most of Metaplanet's investors are retail traders, many of whom have limited experience with crypto assets, but they just want to be involved inside the crypto scene. Now, one thing you should be, essentially understanding is also interesting timing on Metaplanet introducing this massive plan, because MicroStrategy has paused their Bitcoin buying for the time being a little bit. But one thing you should understand regarding these types of companies like Metaplanet and MicroStrategy or strategy is that the amount of Bitcoin they're buying is great, but what you need to understand is that they're raising money on things they're borrowing, which are going to expire, which was the at one point they have to sell their Bitcoins. And when they do, it's going to be a drastic drop on Bitcoin, a drastic drop, because Strategy, which is MicroStrategy, owns a tremendous amount of Bitcoin, and they're not buying them like ETFs, like BlackRock is. But BlackRock isn't buying them as well. It's their clients that are buying them through BlackRock as an ETF for Bitcoin. What we need to understand is the way MicroStrategy buys Bitcoin, or the way Metaplanet buys Bitcoin, is very different to the way essentially BlackRock is buying Bitcoin ETFs, or Fidelity has Bitcoin ETFs, or Wisdom Tree has Bitcoin ETFs. Because the Wisdom Tree Bitcoin ETFs, or BlackRock's Bitcoin ETFs, and so on, they don't expire. But the way MicroStrategy is raising money to buy Bitcoin, their convertible notes are going to expire essentially by 2027, which means some by 2026, who knows? Which means when it reaches that stage of expiring, MicroStrategy needs to sell a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. Same goes for Metaplanet. Same goes for any other company that's following MicroStrategy's footsteps as a private or public limited company. They're raising money essentially with convertible notes, which means those convertible notes will expire at one point, which means they have to sell their Bitcoins. They can do it again, borrow again, but they need to find more investors to do that. But it's very different to the way BlackRock is essentially doing with Bitcoin ETFs, and Wisdom Tree is doing Bitcoin ETFs, and so on, Grayscale's Bitcoin ETFs, because they don't have convertible notes. They're not raising money for it. They just have investors buying into it. The way MicroStrategy is doing is raising money through essentially convertible notes, which expire at one point, which means they have to sell off the Bitcoins. So that's going to cause drastic drops on Bitcoins. Just something to consider, because everybody sees the side where Michael Saylor is buying Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin maxis get excited every time Michael Saylor buys Bitcoin. But you need to understand the way he's buying Bitcoin, it means at one point he has to sell quite a lot. But the way BlackRock is doing it is different. Bitcoin ETFs are very different to the way MicroStrategy is doing it. He's borrowing money to buy it, which means he has to pay it back, which means he sells his Bitcoin. The way BlackRock is doing it is for investors. There's no borrowing. It's just Bitcoin ETFs. So MicroStrategy has a drastic amount of Bitcoin. If they dump, it's going to be a massive dump. And any other company following MicroStrategy's footsteps, like Metaplanet, who are buying a ridiculous amount now as well, $2 billion they're going to spend, theirs also going to expire as well. When theirs expires, they're going to dump on the market too. So it's just one ginormous bubble, Bitcoin bubble, that MicroStrategy is creating, even though he's put his entire focus on his company. Now, when their convertible notes do expire, they can essentially raise more money if they want to do, but selling needs to happen at one point, is what I'm trying to say, but not with the Bitcoin ETFs. Anything that's ETF, it's when the when the investors want to sell off. That's their choice. But that's not an ETF. That's just a company raising convertible notes to buy certain assets. Or as JP has just put it, the bubble is too big, Michael, pretty much. And Michael Saylor is, as I said previously, is betting on the idea that Trump creates a Bitcoin reserve. If Trump creates a Bitcoin reserve, then MicroStrategy will become this ginormous company. That's what he's betting on. If Trump doesn't create a Bitcoin reserve, but just ends up, keeping the Bitcoins he already has for the Federal Reserve, for the stockpile, and ends up buying American crypto projects, that's going to look very bad for Michael Saylor, especially. Which let's see how that goes. But also on this whole Bitcoin train, this bandwagon, is there any other companies joining this space? Yes. Jet King is the first Indian company that is adopting this whole Bitcoin standard like MicroStrategy. Jet King has become the first publicly traded Indian corporation to implement Bitcoin standard in the Indian corporate sector, following MicroStrategy's footsteps and Metaplanet's footsteps in Japan. The choice establishes an important financial development stage in India's market space. Because the adoption of Bitcoin by institutions is currently increasing essentially sharply, the shift at the company supports an international industry movement that showcases businesses adopting essentially Bitcoin into their financial operations. Jet King's chief financial officer essentially confirmed the company's transition to a Bitcoin standard during an interview with MicroStrategy Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has been going around and, telling any corporation he can, any CEO, executive person he can, to buy Bitcoin no matter what. Because it works out for MicroStrategy. The more companies get involved, the more people listen to Michael Saylor and buy Bitcoin, the better it is for Michael Saylor. Now, the CEO essentially of this company, the chief financial officer of this company, stated that Bitcoin serves as more than a speculative asset. emphasizing its role in building financial resilience. He acknowledged that MicroStrategy's corporate Bitcoin strategy influenced by Jet King's decision, referencing its success in managing treasury assets. Michael Saylor, known for advocating corporate Bitcoin adoption, praised Jet King's move. He described as forward-thinking decision that mirrors MicroStrategy's approach. Saylor emphasized that Bitcoin functions as a strict financial instrument rather than just a trading asset. He noted that India's financial sector is evolving, with corporations recognizing Bitcoin's potential in treasury management. Now, following Jet King's announcement, Bitcoin's price increased from 95,000 to 97,500 within an hour just because Jet King is about to buy Bitcoin. Investors' confidence contributed to the surge, reflecting growing institutional interest in Bitcoin once again. Essentially, consecutively, trading volumes on many exchanges rose, including Binance and Coinbase, which observed a 20% rise since Jet King has made the announcement. There were movements like the transfer of more than 35,000 Bitcoins, which several hours essentially of trading, indicating the upsurges that's going to be happening. Now, one of the largest corporations in essentially India in terms of cross-platforms is to trade in Bitcoin as well, has posted an increase of 15% in their tradings of virtual currencies, which is a clear sign of positive market sentiments. Now, Jet King's decision could influence other publicly listed companies in India to consider Bitcoin as a reserve asset. While the Indian government remains cautious about digital assets, corporate leaders are gradually incorporating Bitcoin into their financial strategies. The development indicates a shift towards integrating digital assets into mainstream corporate finance. Is this a good idea or a bad idea? A lot of companies getting involved in creating a Bitcoin essentially streak portfolio for themselves. Time will tell. But what I can say is Michael Saylor is, as I said before, he's an incredibly intelligent man. Michael Saylor is an incredibly intelligent man, incredibly wealthy man. But there's something fishy going on with this whole essentially telling any company he can to buy Bitcoin no matter what the price is. And it's got to do with his convertible notes coming to an expiry date. And also, if Trump doesn't create a Bitcoin reserve, but instead creates a crypto stockpile, which is what the executive order is, Michael Saylor can still benefit as long as he gets a lot of publicly traded companies around the world to invest into Bitcoin. So it pays off for MicroStrategy's movements. So if Trump doesn't create a Bitcoin reserve package, but instead Trump creates a crypto stock reserve, there's a crypto stockpile, a reserve for all types of American crypto projects, and doesn't buy Bitcoin, but instead keeps the Bitcoins America already has seized, that's bad news for MicroStrategy. That's bad news for Michael Saylor. However, if Michael Saylor is able to convince, a tremendous amount of publicly traded companies internationally to go towards Bitcoin, then MicroStrategy can still make a profit, a huge amount of profit. So I think that is what he's aiming for, because he knows that Trump is not going to do a Bitcoin reserve. Trump is going to do a crypto reserve, because otherwise the executive order would have said Bitcoin reserve, but it didn't. It said crypto. The digital assets. So I'm guessing MicroStrategy's new bet is to get as many publicly traded companies possible to buy Bitcoin so that MicroStrategy can still flip a profit even if Trump doesn't announce a Bitcoin reserve. And again, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor is an incredibly intelligent man. So, a plan like this makes sense from someone like him, because he tried to force Jeff Bezos to buy Bitcoin for Amazon. It didn't really go to plan. He tried to force Microsoft essentially to buy Bitcoin. That didn't go to plan either. So now he's going international. He's doing a podcast with essentially CFOs and CEOs of publicly traded companies internationally, and now in India, telling them to buy Bitcoin no matter what the price is. So is he trying to do, because if Trump doesn't do a Bitcoin reserve, if he can still get publicly traded companies happening, then they can still make a profit from other companies, because other companies will hold the bag when MicroStrategy does a dump because of their convertible note expiries. Michael Saylor is an incredibly intelligent man, You never know what he's up to. But what I do know is there's a massive Bitcoin bubble that he's creating, and he's trying to get everyone involved. And his convertible notes are going to come to an expiry. Now, before we go for the next news, which is regarding the SEC, In terms of why hasn't Paul Atkins taken his seat yet as the SEC chairman? Because a lot of people are wondering, why hasn't Paul Atkins, the SEC chairman, taken his seat yet? Because Gary Gensler has left for a while now. But we do have an acting SEC chairman, Mark, who's very pro-crypto. And we have a very pro-crypto, essentially Hester Pierce, who's the SEC commissioner in charge of the crypto task force that was created overnight when Gary Gensler left. So we do have pro-crypto people running the SEC right now, which is, great, which is very good. But why hasn't Paul Atkins, the SEC chairman, not came essentially and replaced Gary Gensler yet? Why do we still have an acting chairman? It's probably a question for a lot of people, which is what we're going to go through next. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. We're more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the next news, which is regarding the SEC and Paul Atkins. Unless I missed that, but I was surprised to see any crypto analysis. Even Miles and CMF. Joe, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been, Joe? Wheels Conflux Network capitalized enormously on the upcoming popularization of crypto in Hong Kong. How good do you think CFX will do in 2025? I think CFX will do tremendously well for itself in 2025. Depends on how Hong Kong moves in terms of regulations, or China moves in terms of regulations. China seems to be like opening its doors to the crypto space as well. There's been discussions happening in China because they don't want to get left behind from the American market space. China has always been the #1 competitor to the US. They even tried to replace the US dollar with the Chinese yuan, with BRICS. A lot of people thought BRICS was about a collective of countries coming together and doing local trades as if we live in La La Land. The reality of BRICS was China was trying to push their own yuan onto different jurisdictions around the world, which is, by the way, failing badly. Russia, as I've revealed essentially recently, decided to not go towards this whole BRICS ideology of going against the US dollars. The Kremlin, Dmitry from the Kremlin, decided to come out and say that Russia's not creating a BRICS coin in any sort of a way, and instead they want to work with the US and so on. India, by the way, decided essentially to come out and say they're not creating a BRICS coin in any sort of a way, and they don't want to go against the US dollars. You see what Trump does? He puts everyone in their place. All of a sudden, every country realizes that authority is back, that Trump is back in the White House, and they need to listen. If they don't, they will be crippled as an entire country. So India, essentially being one of the biggest players on the whole BRICS, essentially ideology of going against the US dollars, even India backed out. I was talking about this essentially about a few days ago, a few weeks ago as well, how essentially every country is, well, to be fairly honest, 2 years ago, when a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when BRICS first was initially announced to the public, BRICS is happening and it's going to go against the US dollars and so on. I said that's never going to happen. And a lot of people inside the crypto space said it is. A lot of influencers came out. Everyone said it's going to happen. BRICS is happening. BRICS coin is happening, and so on and so on. And I said, no, it's not. 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I said, no, it's not. I said, because what country do you know that wants to give up power? The world that we live in is greed and power. And there's not a country on this planet that wants to give up that greed and power. Instead, they want more power. They want more greed. And I said, there is no way that the US is just going to say, oh, well, they don't want to use the dollar, so that's it. And the dollars is going to go to the side, and then, BRICS is going to take over, and China is going to become the replacement of the US. I said, that's never going to happen. It's just la la land. Fast forward to today, when we have essentially Russia, bailing on China in terms of BRICS and saying we're not creating anything against the US dollars. Who said that? And then we have India also coming out and saying we're not creating a BRICS token to go against the US dollars. Who said that? So one by one, they're all leaving BRICS' ideology of going against the US dollars. And then what do you know? And then there will be one, the very good old saying, and then there was one, China. Again, just by itself. It's just authorities being brought back is what it is, pretty much. But if you don't know that, now you know. India has also decided to drop out of this whole ideology of BRICS because they're fearing Trump. Trump is back, US dollars is back, US is on #1 again, and China is going back to the bottom of the list again. But I said this was going to happen anyways. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I said BRICS is never going to happen. Everybody inside the crypto space said BRICS, US dollars going to zero, BRICS, BRICS, BRICS. I said, no, no, no. because you need to understand how the world operates. There's two sides to the world. There's the good side and the bad side. And most people only know the good side. And some people pretend to know the bad side. But I know both sides, which is why I said it's never going to happen. And by the looks of it, it isn't. But talking about the SEC chairmanship, why hasn't the new essentially cryptocurrency friendly SEC chairman taken office after Gary Gensler? Is something wrong? Here is the truth. Crypto journalist Eleanor Turret has reported on the delay in the confirmation of the newly appointed crypto-friendly chairman of the US Securities Exchange Commission. The big question, why hasn't nobody replaced, Gary Gensler yet? Why do we have an acting chairman inside the SEC still? Even though he is pro-crypto, Mark is very pro-crypto, so is Hester Pierce, to be fairly honest. Despite essentially being nominated, Paul Atkins has yet to take office, prompting questions from the crypto community. According to Terra, the delay is due to the Senate's confirmation process, which prioritizes cabinet members over other key positions. 9 cabinet members are currently still awaiting confirmation, further delaying essentially Paul Atkins' interview. So there are 9 cabinet members in front of Paul Atkins that need to be essentially reviewed by the time we get to Paul Atkins. Hence why Paul Atkins hasn't replaced Gary Gensler yet. But we have an acting chairman who's very pro-crypto, Mark. Paul Atkins' nomination will need to appear before the Senate Banking Committee before it can be voted on essentially by a full Senate. While a hearing date has not yet been set, because a lot of people are asking, essentially, what's the deadline? What's the time frame on Paul Atkins coming into essentially his position? It still hasn't been set. We still don't have a time frame on when he's going to take that chair. Now, the confirmation is expected to proceed without major hurdles. So there's going to be no jumping through hoops for Paul Atkins. He's going to smoothly sail and get some sort of an approval because there's no hurdles anymore. We have a Trump presidency. There's no hurdles. Any politician or any senator or any governor tries to do any sort of, turbulence for the market space, it's going to end very bad for them because Trump is pro-crypto and he doesn't like it when people go against him. And for reference, past SEC chairs have faced similar delays in this sense. Previous SEC chairman Gary Gensler was nominated by President essentially Biden in January 21st, but was not confirmed until April of that year. Similarly, Jay Clinton, nominated by President Trump in January 2017, did not receive the Senate confirmation until May 2017. So this is very, essentially standard procedure. If anybody's thinking to themselves, are they doing this on purpose so Paul Atkins doesn't get to take his seat very soon? It's not on purpose. It's just a procedure that normally happens. There's no jumping through hoops or any sort of turbulence in any sort of a way. They're not doing this on purpose. It's just something that does happen. But in terms of, the SEC currently, it's still pro-crypto. Mark pro-crypto, Hester Pierce pro-crypto. They're doing the best they can, believe me. They're actually acknowledging ETF applications from altcoins, something that the previous essentially chairman didn't do from the SEC, Gary Gensler, due to the influence from Biden's circus freaks of administration. But they're doing the best they can, to be fairly honest. Now, before we talk about the next news on tonight's live, which is regarding Rep. Waters, essentially proposing a stablecoin rule in terms of federal oversight, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go back inside the comment section and we go straight to the next news, which is regarding Rep. Waters. Let's see where we're at. Hong Kong SEC did not approve XRP for listings as XRP still in court case pending the US. Yes, it's true. That's why I say the case needs to be over before we get an ETF. If US, good evening, Miles. Mav, good to see you. How you doing? I've said this for the longest time. The case needs to be done before we can get an XRP ETF. Now, if we're getting some sort of a nod of an approval from the SEC, according to James and Eric this week, does that mean essentially we do have a time frame for this essentially the case? Is what I've essentially said. But yeah, I've said this for the longest time. Case needs to be done before an XRP ETF happens. But regarding that time frame, is it going to be done this month? Is apparently what's been happening. If USA SEC approves XRP ETFs, the rest will follow. Yes, obviously, facts, pure facts. Let's go here. The bubble is too big for Michael. I agree 100%. If they all need more money, that real world tokenization and DeFi could save their asses and make us rich if they touch along the chain of XRP. I agree 100%. Regarding all these jurisdictions having this massive bubble crisis situation going on, China's bubble crisis comes to real estate, and Japan has a real estate bubble crisis situation as well. Hong Kong has a bubble crisis situation as well in terms of real estate. France, real estate. Germany, automotive. UK, in terms of no growth, is having a massive crisis as well. Yeah, I agree. BlackRock is borrowing against their Bitcoin holdings. The smarter thing to do than borrowing to buy Bitcoin, in my opinion, 100%. Yes, I agree. I agree. No tax on debt. Facts. Let's go. Salute, Miles. Evening. Let's go, Davey. How you doing? Good to see you as well. Because Gary left a bigger pile than everybody thought. Yes, that's true. Hello, Miles and CMF. Anna, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Sooner than you think. Let's go, Ian. Could it be that the big boys are using MicroSailor as a face for BTC, but in reality, BTC profits are servicing the American debt ceiling? Just an opinion. Interesting opinion, Lena. But if it is true, it has to be on paper. Otherwise, it's an illegal move. So if it's not on paper, then it can't be a reality. So it has to be on paper. Why is the stablecoin bill so important? The stablecoin bill is important because it makes the asset, it gives the asset stablecoins a green light to be used domestically and internationally. So banks know, or institutions know, where to draw the line when it comes to stablecoins, what purposes they can use stablecoins for, and what they can't use stablecoins for. Just like any other thing inside of financial tools, in terms of the financial sector, the regulations show institutions and banks what lines they're not supposed to cross. If they cross a line, then they get a fine. If they don't cross that line, then they're good to go. So that's why a stablecoin bill is important, because they want to know what they can do with stablecoins. Can they borrow against their stablecoins? Can essentially stake their stablecoins? Can they get yields from their stablecoins, or so on and so on? So they need to know what lines not to cross, and not to be in gray areas, because gray areas leads to lawsuits. So that's why it's important, and it's important for the entire crypto space to be regulated as well. So banks and institutions know what lines not to cross. I remember you made that call regarding BRICS over a year ago with your famous crystal ball. Let's go, Ray. Yep, that is true. Now, Rep Waters proposes a stablecoin rules for federal oversight. Believe it or not, both House Republicans and Democrats have introduced proposals to regulate the US stablecoins, signaling that the sector is a legislative priority under President Donald Trump. So even Democrats are in favor of stablecoin regulations. Maxine Waters, the ranking Democrat on the House's Financial Services Committee, published a proposal for stablecoin oversight through the federal watchdogs such as the Office of Essentially Control of Currencies and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporations and the Federal Reserve. Maxine Waters' essentially discussions drafts also outlines regulatory frameworks for state regulators back in 2022. The Rep Waters criticized a Republican-led House bill, calling it a deeply problematic due to concerns over allowing state regulators to approve stablecoins without Federal Reserve oversight. At the time, she argued before former House Committee Chair Patrick McHenry that this approach could introduce foreskin essentially risk. Rep Waters' proposal means that both Republicans and Democrat lawmakers have now introduced stablecoin regulations since President Trump has taken office. Last week, Rep Waters French Hill, the new Republican chair of the House Financial Services Committee, submitted a draft bill for stablecoin regulations, co-sponsored by Rep Brian Steele, and the bill would grant the OCC authority to approve and supervise payment stablecoin issuers. Especially the OCC can license and oversee non-bank stablecoin operators with federal permits. The rules could allow firms like Ripple to enter the $220 billion market space. Rep essentially Hill's bill contrasts with Rep Waters' proposals, as it essentially assigns stablecoin oversight to the OCC rather than the Federal Reserve, which Waters had essentially advocated for. Waters previously stated that the House lawmakers needed a grand bargaining on stablecoins to move forward with regulations in the Senate. And GOP Senator Bill Hagerty essentially also introduced Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act. Policymakers also unveiled a bio-caramel working group focused on passing crypto regulations at press conference hosted by White House AI and crypto associate David Sachs. So Republicans and Democrats are actually coming together in terms of crypto regulations, in terms of stablecoin regulations, you could say even now. But Democrats are saying that the Federal Reserve should have, a hand in terms of crypto regulations, while the Republicans are saying, forget about the Federal Reserve. Republicans just want to pass their own laws when it comes to crypto regulations. The thing I can say is I'm happy that both of them are on the same page. I knew the Republicans were going to be pro-crypto anyways, because Republican politicians are also, the reason why we had a clean sweep of Republican politicians is because of companies like Ripple and Coinbase, which were funding into this crypto package for donation purposes. And Democrats, some of them got funded as well. But it's nice to see the Democrat politicians coming around and, showing some sort of interest towards crypto assets. They're both getting on the same page somehow, by the looks of it. Now, what we're going to talk about next is the European payments giant, a European essentially payments giant, Klarna, which is essentially a company that most people have probably heard of. It's a company where if you want to pay for an item, you can do it in 3 steps. What Apple is trying to do with Apple Pay, where if you want to buy something expensive, you can pay it in 3 payments instead of paying it in 1. So Klarna is what it essentially does. Now, Klarna is like Stripe, essentially a payment system. Why am I telling you about these companies? Because they are actually a very massive company and they've decided to enter the crypto space. So here it is. Klarna Bank AB, a Swedish fintech company popular in Europe, plans to embrace cryptocurrencies on its platform. It's the firm's chief executive officer, Sebastian, announced on a post essentially today, I give up. Klarna and me will embrace crypto. More to come, he wrote to his essentially followings. Now, Klarna is a popular essentially buy now, pay later app. A lot of people must have heard of, one of these apps where you buy now and you pay later. Primarily used in Europe, the platform, which is valued at $14.8 billion. According to essentially Investopedia, has over 85 million users and $100 billion in terms of volume. The company has been around since 2005 and received backing essentially from major VC capitalists out there, and a prominent essentially venture capitalist company behind many fintech crypto-focused companies is also backing Klarna as well. Now, Sebastian said he was introduced to 3 entrepreneurs by an investment analyst and at the VC, which convinced them to get into crypto. Sebastian, which holds and the VC company, which holds 22% stake of Klarna, also backs Avalanche, Fireblocks, Stripe, and crypto exchange EDX Markets, among others. So does that mean AVAX is going to be a part of Klarna's footsteps? Because the company that's backing, essentially investing into Klarna as a VC company, has also been the backer of AVAX. Many other fintech essentially firms have long incorporated crypto into their platforms, such as Robinhood, Venmo, or Revolut Bank. The latter two, essentially, for example, have long allowed users to buy, sell, and hold certain crypto assets on their app. It still feels historic, essentially, Sebastian wrote. Last large fintech in the world to embrace it, someone had to be last. Sebastian did not specify how exactly Klarna would incorporate cryptocurrencies into his business model. One user suggested a buy crypto, pay later option, which essentially Sebastian responded to saying, probably not. He said, while the company will look at all types of options, he might take some time for it to have some sort of plan in place, but we could see maybe AVAX being adopted by this company, Klarna. They do have $100 billion in volume coming in, which is a ridiculous amount. 86 million users as well. Now, moving on, from Klarna decided to enter the crypto space, and by their terms, being the last company to enter the crypto space. Two more US regulatory dominoes may have fallen for crypto. You see, Trump has been very pro-crypto. He's the only politician that says something he's going to do and actually does it. He's the only president I've seen pretty much in my entire lifetime that says he's going to do this and this, and he does it. Now, there are certain things he still hasn't done, but they're in line to be, he's going to do them, is what I do know. He's never let anyone down. If he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And we've seen that back to back with the crypto space. Whatever Trump has said for the crypto space, he's done it so far. And he's went above and beyond again for the crypto space. So a lot of government essentially departments were very anti-crypto in Biden's essentially control on the Biden's administration of circus freaks. The SEC was very anti-crypto, which is now pro-crypto. CFTC was anti-crypto, which is now pro-crypto. FDIC was anti-crypto, which is now pro-crypto. Now, there was two other departments which were anti-crypto as well. And instead of Trump thinking about, maybe keeping these departments around and making them pro-crypto, he's just thinking about getting rid of them. So the OCC and the CFPB is what he's deciding to get rid of, pretty much, because they were both anti-crypto, and he doesn't see the purpose of them staying around in any sort of a way, because these two departments decided to stifle the crypto space as much as they could with banks, just like the FDIC would. But the FDIC is staying around for the time being. So here it is. FDIC acting chairman Travis Hill said the agency is overhauling its crypto approach just as senators examine crypto regulators keeping banks out of crypto. The crypto industry can likely look forward to two more agencies falling in line, essentially interline on its digital asset policy aims. The Office of Controller of the Currencies, which is one of the chief US banking regulators, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where the lights are effectively being shut off now, which is the CFPB. The sector's dicey relationship with US banking can be expected to be further mitigated with the arrival of new stand-in chief at the OCC, Rodney Hood, the crypto-friendly former chairman of the US credit union watchdog. As with other essentially key financial oversight positions, President Donald Trump has tapped somebody who embraces cryptocurrency technology. So basically, Trump is replacing everybody inside the government who was an anti-crypto person with that's pro-crypto. Now, if that pro-crypto person isn't able to, turn things around in that agency quick enough, and there's too much damage that's already been done previously, then Trump is thinking about just shutting down that government agency because they did too much damage. There's no point in them being around. Just get rid of them. But he's putting pro-crypto essentially chairmen in charge for the time being, just to see how things go. When running essentially the credit union agency in 2021, the person that's going to be in charge as the acting chairman, he said, cryptocurrencies needs to be a part of the crypto union system, he said. If you don't have it, it's going to hurt your ability to compete with other financial service providers, is what the essentially current person is saying. Rodney, who is the current OCC chairman, new one. And if you don't have it, it's going to hurt your ability to compete with other financial service providers. Substituting banks for credit unions in that sentiment could mean a rethinking of the OCC's guidance to banks in 2021 that contributed to the rift between crypto firms and US banking services. The agencies went even further than that and pushed banks away from digital assets entirely. Trump's new acting head of the FDIC, Travis Hill, has already said he's ordered a comprehensive review of all supervisory communications with banks that sought to offer crypto-related products or services, with the aim of opening essentially a path for banks to engage with digital assets. With the removal of the Securities and Exchange Commission's crypto accounting policies that effectively essentially piled additional capital requirements on banks that essentially wanted to handle crypto for clients, the banking essentially implementations for digital assets may be the falling way. At the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, the watchdog established after the global financial meltdown in 2008 is seeing its very existence under essentially assaults from Republicans who have long had issues with the agency's fights with corporations. Trump installed his budget chief, Ross Vaught, as the acting head of the CFPB, and is moved to choke off its essentially financing and cripple its operations. A cheer went up from the certain figures in crypto, including Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, is praising Trump's movements a lot inside the crypto space, as he should be, because what Trump is doing with every single government department as anti-crypto is turning them pro-crypto or getting rid of them. His company was a frequent subject of the consumers' complaints, logged the agency's database, almost 8,000 at lost count. Coinbase's CEO was getting a lot of stress from the CFPB previously on the Biden's administration, but now obviously the CFPB has toned a lot of things down because they know that Trump is going to shut them out if they decide to go after crypto companies anymore. So Brian Armstrong said in a post that the agency should be deleted. The CFPB should be deleted, not essentially, revamped and become pro-crypto. It should just be deleted in general because of how much anti-crypto they brought to the scene. But he's still praising Trump for trying to make them pro-crypto. Now, calling it unconstitutional activist organizations that has done enormous harm to the country in general. Though the US Supreme Court ruled last year that the CFPB's operations doesn't run afoul of the Constitution. Now, apart from the past leaderships, it saw as its duty to protect consumers harmed by crypto firms. The agency also essentially seeking some additional policy authority over the industry in January. Is now dismissed previous dictator and pushed for stablecoin regulations that the industry left and the overreach that threatened the essentially self-hosted wallets. The CFPB was against everything in crypto. The CFPB was against you holding a cold storage wallet. The CFPB was against the banks holding crypto. The CFPB was against crypto exchanges. Everything to do with crypto, they were against it. And the administration of the CFPB attack has drawn resistance from Democratic lawmakers, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, the top Democratic, essentially, on the Senate Banking Committee, and Representative Maxine Waters, who occupies that same role at the House of Financial Services Committee. Elon Musk and the guy who wrote the Project 2025, Ross Vought, are trying to kill the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because the Democratic Party politicians use the CFPB as a political tool, just like they were using US aid as a political tool. And Warren said in a video released today, Elizabeth Warren, criticizing Trump's administration for his pursuit of consumer agency. This is the payoff to the rich guys who invested in his campaign and who want to cheat families and not have anybody around to stop them. It's interesting that Senator Elizabeth Warren is coming out and saying that, Donald Trump is trying to get rid of the CFPB by helping his billionaire friends get more wealthy. And that, getting rid of the CFPB will cheat regular 9-to-5 families out of their money, is what Elizabeth Warren is saying. Elizabeth Warren is the same person that was approving everything essentially the US aid was doing. US aid, as I said previously, was investing ridiculous amount of taxpaying money to produce cartoons for certain countries, or spending $1.3 million by putting a shrimp on a treadmill, while regular people lost their homes in floods in the United States, and they received $750 for loans. A $750 loan, and your entire house is gone in a flood. That's all you got as an American citizen. While as people outside of the United States were receiving $20 million, $100 million. And what were they for? $20 million for condoms was one of them. Or $2 million to find the most fluffiest pillow, a cushion that you can put your head on. Or $5 million to find the best ice cream cone the US aid was spending on. So Elizabeth Warren, is interesting that she always plays on one side. Senator Elizabeth Warren coming out and saying Trump is going to take money from the regular folks in America, the 9-to-5 workers. So is Elon. They're both going to ruin America for the traditional families, the 9-to-5 people, working people, by getting rid of the CFPB. And in reality, that's not the case. Getting rid of the CFPB actually might not be a bad idea. But Elizabeth Warren standing behind US aid, the same organization that's sending millions of dollars across the world. American veterans don't get looked after by the US. Now, some do and some don't. But in general, all of them should be looked after, is what I'm trying to say. But instead, America's, through US aid, is sending millions of dollars across the world, when they can spend that money on their US veterans, the people who did a lot for that country, when they can spend that money on floods in America, when they can spend that money on hurricane situations in America. So it's interesting to see Elizabeth Warren coming out and stating Trump is going to take money from the average working people, the average working families, and so is Elon Musk, by getting rid of the CFPB, but instead standing behind US aid. Really? What I always like to see is, it's always funny to me when I see hypocrites coming out of the woodworks, always. One of them being Senator Elizabeth Warren. She's the biggest hypocrite on this planet. And Democrats intend to hold a rally at the CFPB. So believe it or not, Senator Elizabeth Warren is going to be there to protect the CFPB, the same organization that was trying to stop the regular American citizen from holding crypto assets. The CFPB didn't want Americans holding crypto wallets, citizens holding crypto wallets. But instead, Elizabeth Warren is coming out and saying the CFPB was there to help the people. No, it wasn't. The CFPB was there for their own pockets of stealing taxpayers' money. Waters released the text of the stablecoin bill. Essentially, she worked on out with her previous Republican counterparts of the committee as well. But in general, Elizabeth Warren is once again wasting taxpayers' money, as you could say. Honestly, she is the biggest hypocrite on this entire planet. She stands for regular working Americans in her $5 million mansion. I don't think she knows how to spell the word regular. When Americans lost their homes in floods, they received $750 as a loan for one family, not per person, as a loan for a family. They received $750. Elizabeth Warren protested because U.S. aid is not going to be around anymore. It's just ridiculous once you think about it. The amount of taxpayer money they wasted outside the country, which they could have used inside the country. And on the subject of US aid, the biggest fraud organization to ever have existed, a political tool, you could even say, by the Democratic Party. Now, when I mention Republicans or Democrats, I'm not mentioning people who support Democrats or Republicans. When I mention Republicans or Democrats, I'm only mentioning the politicians, the Democratic politicians or Democratic Republicans. So if you're a regular person or supporting either party, I'm not mentioning you. I'm only merely mentioning the politicians. And on the subject of US aid, Charles, the founder of Cardano, found something interesting, which is this. In the latest development, Charles, the founder of Cardano, has criticized U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. Now, why would Charles, the founder of Cardano, come out randomly, even though you should be criticizing USAID, but why would Charles come out and go against USAID? Well, it turns out Charles has uncovered that USAID was funding essentially a book that links Bitcoin to right-wing extremism. WikiLeaks recently revealed that USAID funded a book connecting Bitcoin and cyber-liberalism to right-wing ideologies. The book, essentially the right-wing politics of digital technology, authored by David, links Bitcoin to extremists and ideologies. Published by the University of Minnesota Press, it reportedly received over $80,000, so far they've unraveled, in fundings from US governments, according to WikiLeaks. Isn't that interesting? So far they've unraveled, but somebody received $80,000. $80,000 of your tax-paying money. You might think it's not a lot of money, but somebody received $80,000 from USAID to publish a book against Bitcoin. And then people who lost their homes in America got $750 on a loan. Hopkins, also the founder of Cardano, also expressed his frustration on social media, calling this portrayal of Bitcoin's garbage. This controversy arises essentially in broader scrutiny of USAID's activities. The Trump administration has recently issued an executive order leading to funding a freezing for the agency, affecting its global humanitarian efforts. Reports indicate that some USAID staff are also on leave, with the agency is further unclear. Backing Cardano's founder, essentially Charles Hopkins, Representative French Hill, chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, recently commented on USAID spending. He mentioned that Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is looking into the agency's budget. He also pointed out that the Secretary of State, Mike, who essentially oversees USAID, will be involved in decisions about its future fundings. Charles' criticism highlights the ongoing debate on how Bitcoin is portrayed and the role of government funding in crypto research. Bitcoin supporters argue that these narratives try to undermine decentralized technology, which they see as a tool for financial inclusion and economic freedom. I also want to point out that today I saw a segment from CNN, and the news anchor and the journalist were on CNN, and they were talking about US aid. And one of them said, is it really wrong? This is how oblivious they are to reality. The news anchor on CNN said, is it really wrong that we spend $20 million on Sesame Street cartoons for a Syrian country? Is what essentially the news anchor said. The CNN news anchor said to the CNN journalist listening, is it really wrong that US aid is using taxpayers' money to buy, to invest $20 million in Syria for a Sesame Street cartoon? The news journalist said, no, it's not, because that cartoon is giving hope to those people. It's giving hope to the children of those, children of those countries. It's giving essentially hope that there's going to be a better day around and so on. And he just hyped it up. Yes, it is wrong. First of all, if you want to spend $20 million, maybe provide food and water wells, piping, something, shelter, $20 million on Sesame Street cartoons. I'm sorry, but if someone's went through war and hell, the last thing they want to see is Sesame Street on TV. Because if you're living in a war, essentially territory country, I don't think what you're looking forward to is Tom and Jerry at the end of the day. You're looking for maybe bread and water at the end of the day. So if you are going to invest, maybe food and shelter, not $20 million for Sesame Street. But second of all, when you have American citizens struggling, not being able to pay their bills, or you have essentially a lot of people that are essentially living outside, they don't even have shelter in America, they don't even have a roof over their heads, or you have veterans who don't even have a roof over their heads, or you have people who lose their homes in floods, or people who lose their homes in hurricanes, and all you do is invest what, $200, $500, $700 for your own people. You invest $700 for your own people, but you're willing to spend $20 million on Sesame Street cartoons in a war zone. And the CNN journalist was trying to say it's a good thing that they spent $20 million of your tax-paying money on Sesame Street cartoons, when the average American can't afford to pay their bills. When people in America are struggling to put a roof over their head or to feed their family. This is how essentially untouched, Democratic politicians and CNN pretty much are from the average American. Because Senator Elizabeth Warren, CNN, and pretty much anybody that supports that ridiculous ideology, this is how untouched they are from reality. They think it's perfectly fine to spend $20 million on Sesame Street cartoons when people in America are receiving $750 when their home is gone from an entire flood. On a loan. Not even $750 to keep. It was a loan. So honestly, I don't know what goes through their heads, but they all must have the brain cells of a goldfish. Genuinely, they must have and this is why the Democratic Party lost an entire. There's many reasons why the Democratic Party lost an entire, essentially. This is one of the reasons why Republicans had a clean sweep. But as I said previously, thank God Donald Trump won. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Thank God Donald Trump won. But this is another reason of why Democrats lost an entire campaign, why Republicans had a clean sweep. There's many reasons why Republicans had a clean sweep, but this is another reason, because these people are untouched from reality. The man goes on live news and says it's okay to spend $20 million on Sesame Street cartoons when Americans are suffering. Now, moving on essentially from US aid to Ripple Labs. Ripple Labs signed a new partnership, new contract with a Portugal, essentially, financial company, a Portuguese company that does business with Brazil. Ripple Labs enters Portugal with essentially a major partnership. Here it is. Ripple Labs, a leading provider of real-time payment solutions, has announced a new partnership with Unicambio, a currency exchange essentially service in Portugal. According to the announcement, this collaboration aims to make cross-border payments between Portugal and Brazil easier and faster. With this, Unicambio will use Ripple's advanced payment platform, which utilizes digital assets to make financial transactions quicker, cheaper, and more efficient. Their digital asset they're talking about is XRP. It is worth noting that this partnership is historic, as is the first time Ripple's payment solution will be available in Portugal. Likewise, this expansion increases Ripple's global presence once again. With Ripple's technology, Unicam customers can enjoy instant cross-border transactions, eliminating their delays and costs that usually come with international essentially money transfers. Furthermore, this partnership will make it essentially easier for Portugal and Brazil to send money also. This system cuts out middlemen, which essentially lowers transaction fees and makes the process more efficient. Notably, Ripple's innovative approach to cross-border essentially payments continues to gain monumentum essentially globally in terms of growth, and its partnership with Unicam underscores its commitments to transforming the financial landscape. And in December, Ripple Labs unveiled this obviously RLUSD stablecoin, a dollar-pegged asset. Interesting, the stablecoin is live on some major global exchanges, as reported essentially. And Ripple emphasized that the stablecoin built for everyone offers fiat currency stability while leveraging blockchain technology. RLUSD functions on two networks simultaneously regarding Ethereum and XRP ledgers. All users on these two networks can officially interact with RLUSD. Most likely, RLUSD will play a part in this whole Brazil and Portugal essentially payment system. And interestingly, Ripple Labs' newly launched stablecoin is steadily making waves inside the crypto world. With its recent adoptions by more prominent essential exchanges like Bitstamp and bullish Ripple's essentially president Monica Long envisions a broader expansion happening with RLUSD. In a recent interview, Monica Long confidently hints that Coinbase could join the roster. If Coinbase lists RLUSD, it essentially establishes. It's incredible. If this happens, it could mark another significant milestone RLUSD's journey towards global adoption. Notably, RLUSD bypasses the limitations inherently in terms of traditional banking hours as it operates 24/7, and essentially there are no delays in international transactions, and other interesting features include seamless and off-ramps and access to real-world services. So, the biggest takeaway pretty much of that entire Ripple news is Ripple once again has expanded its footprint into another territory, Portugal, which apparently is Ripple's first partnership contract with Portugal, with any sort of essentially payment companies or any company in general in Portugal. It's the first time they've made that footstep in Portugal. Incredible to see. And this payment system is Portugal to Brazil. Brazil is a massive hotspot right now for the entire crypto space, to be fairly honest as well. Brazil is advancing at a ridiculous rapid rate right now. They're aiming for that title of cryptocurrencies as well. Ripple has also established an office in Brazil, the same way they've established an office in Singapore and Japan and so on, pretty much around the world in general. But incredible. Once again, incredible. Also, all good things must come to an end, which they did right now. So this was the endings of tonight's live. This was episode 259 of the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this was episode 259 of the CMF Live. And if you're wondering what the hell is the CMF and who am I, this is the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Miles Family, CMF. My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles. I'm the host of this live. You can tune into this live Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards, where I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. We also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you ever do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So, if you're watching this for the first time ever, drop a follow, drop a like, comment, retweet. If you're regular Let's Go CMF members, like, retweet, comment, and share. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe if you already haven't. Tune in tomorrow same time as usual. If you're watching us on X, follow me if you already haven't. Tune in same timing as usual as well. Good night, Miles and all CMF. Thank you for going live in news. Let's go, JP. let's see where we were inside the comment section, because I think I missed that. Let's go inside the comment section just in case I did miss out a few questions. Let's see where we were at. Any news on Tangem, new Visa and card, how it will affect the storage miles? No news so far on Tangem's Visa card, but we'll get more announcements coming out once it is established. So many of the left circus freaks still in power. Elizabeth Warren is an absolute joke. Yes, I agree. Didn't also help Gary G with his questions regarding crypto. Can't make this up, bro. Honestly, facts. Let's go, Ray. Hey, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? Carol, good night. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. JPC, bro, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night to you and CMF. Stormy, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks, Legend, for all your insight. Night and day, CMF. Shelly, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Have a nice evening. Yes, go. Kim, you too. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks. Let's go, Shakira. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good. Great Monday live. Live, share, and comment. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Good night. CMF, see you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great live as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night. And see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Autistic, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good job, Miles. As always, love and respect for you. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Also, my friend and mentor, let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Miles, the GOAT. Let's go, Scott. Miles, the legend. Let's go, Scott. Good night, Miles and CMF. Free further. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. See you tomorrow. Let's go, Ian. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. I will see everybody tomorrow. Same timing as usual, 11:25 p.m. UK time, United Kingdom time, for episode 260. So this was episode 259. For episode 260, tune in tomorrow, 11:25 p.m. United Kingdom time. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Like, comment, share,